Lately, there's been quiet concern circulating behind the scenes about Bryshere Gray. People close to him, especially those from Empire, have reportedly been trying to step in, worried that he's spiraling and desperately needs support. Among them, Taraji P. Henson, who played his on-screen mother, is said to be the most shaken. Sources claim she was deeply emotional after learning about allegations involving powerful figures like Will Smith and Diddy and the impact those experiences may have had on Bryshere. Honestly, many feel this intervention should have happened years ago. But to understand how things reached this point, it helps to rewind. Bryshere first captured audiences when he burst onto Empire as Hakeem Lyon, the youngest son of Lucius Lyon, portrayed by Terrence Howard, and Cookie Lyon, played by Taraji P. Henson. His breakout moment wasn't accidental. Lee Daniels personally auditioned him, was impressed by what he saw, and flew him out to Los Angeles to read alongside Taraji and Terrence. That audition sealed the deal. Daniels didn't just cast Bryshere, he took him under his wing. Their relationship quickly turned into a mentorship, at least on the surface. But Lee Daniels has long been a controversial figure, and whispers soon followed that his involvement with Bryshere crossed uncomfortable lines. People often reference a Breakfast Club interview where Daniels made remarks about Bryshere that left many viewers unsettled. Throughout the conversation, Bryshere appeared visibly uneasy. In that interview, Daniels mentioned spending excessive time with Bryshere, even noting that his own son wasn't happy about it. At one point, he made a suggestive hand gesture, clapping his hands in a spanking motion while repeatedly saying yes, yes, yes in reference to Bryshere. The moment raised eyebrows then, and it hasn't aged well. After Empire ended, Bryshere's career never really recovered. Instead of new roles, his name began trending for troubling reasons. In 2021, he pleaded guilty to domestic violence charges involving his wife and was sentenced to 10 days in an Arizona county jail. According to police reports, his wife was treated for non-life-threatening injuries, but officers noted multiple visible marks on her body. She also told authorities that Bryshere had strangled her during the altercation, causing her to briefly lose consciousness. Bryshere offered his own explanation. He claimed his wife had attempted to harm herself on more than one occasion and said he was trying to prevent that. He also insisted that another individual, identified as Mac, was responsible for the abuse. However, his wife told a different story. She revealed that Bryshere had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and ADHD, but refused to take his prescribed medication. Taken together, the pieces paint a troubling picture of unresolved trauma, untreated mental health struggles, and a young man who may have been failed long before the public ever noticed. She also made it clear that Mac wasn't some mysterious third party at all. According to her, it was simply a fake name Bryshere used when he didn't want to be recognized, something he allegedly did when ordering food at hotels. That revelation only added to the confusion surrounding his behavior, which didn't stop there. Bryshere has also faced civil trouble. In 2019, his landlord filed a lawsuit claiming they had rented him a condo inside their 4-unit Chicago property in August of that year. What followed, they said, was a nightmare. According to the complaint, Bryshere routinely left his dog alone for long stretches of time, sometimes even allowing the animal to roam unattended through shared areas of the building. The dog allegedly urinated and defecated throughout the property, causing extensive damage to hardwood floors, staircases, and other structural elements. The allegations didn't end with the dog. The landlords claimed Bryshere repeatedly climbed in and out of windows, flushed condoms down the toilet until the plumbing backed up, smoked marijuana in areas where it was explicitly forbidden under the lease, and engaged in what they described as unsanitary behavior. One example they cited was him eating breakfast in one of the bathrooms and leaving it in disarray afterward. Then, in November 2022, Bryshere found himself in trouble again, this time for violating probation. Police were reportedly called after a woman who said she was dating him contacted authorities, expressing fear that his behavior was becoming increasingly aggressive. She told officers she was worried for her safety. According to her statement, Bryshere threw a box of food at her and pulled her hair during an altercation. Taken together, these incidents form a long list of legal and personal issues that seem to follow him wherever he goes. More recently, Bryshere has been trending for explicit adult content he posts online involving other men. Anyone curious enough can find it easily, he reportedly uploads everything openly, without filters or restraint. Maybe that growing public spiral is why people like Taraji are said to be stepping in now, trying to intervene before things get worse. But there's another theory that keeps resurfacing whenever Empire comes up, the idea of an Empire curse. It sounds dramatic, sure. But a lot of fans swear there's something eerie about what happened to the cast after the show ended. Empire was one of the biggest television successes of its era, yet when the curtain closed, many of the actors struggled to regain momentum. Some careers stalled. Others ended altogether. Terrence Howard is often cited as the most striking example. In 2019, he publicly announced plans to retire, explaining that after Empire, he felt done, not just with acting, but with the entertainment industry as a whole. He spoke candidly about walking away, saying he'd spent his life playing pretend and no longer felt the need to do so. According to him, he had already given his best work and now found satisfaction in watching new talent rise. That explanation makes sense. Burnout is real, especially in Hollywood, where pressure never truly eases and success often comes with invisible sacrifices. Sometimes people leave simply because they feel emptied out, like they've already said everything they needed to say. But for those who love a good Hollywood mystery, that answer isn't enough. They see a pattern. They hear Empire and walked away, and immediately connect the dots. The idea that the show handed out fame while quietly draining stability has become a whispered theory, half joke, half warning. And Terrence isn't the only name people bring up. Taraji's experience is a big reason the curse of conversation refuses to fade. She didn't vanish after Empire, but she's been brutally honest about how difficult the aftermath was. Cookie Lion wasn't just a role, it became a cultural phenomenon. The character dominated pop culture, inspired memes, costumes, catchphrases, and endless praise. From the outside, it looked like a guaranteed career boost. Behind the scenes, though, Taraji has said it was anything but easy. People remember her speaking out during the press run for The Color Purple, openly expressing frustration about not being paid what she deserved. She didn't hint at it, she said it plainly, more than once. And for someone who had carried one of Fox's biggest shows for 5 years, that revelation stunned fans. It exposed an uncomfortable truth about the industry, particularly for Black women, even those with hit shows and award recognition. In an interview with the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, she went even further. She revealed that once Empire ended in 2020, things became so bleak that she eventually had to let go of her entire team. No new roles. No deals. No financial security. After half a decade at the top of television, she felt like she was starting over from scratch. That kind of emotional and professional whiplash leaves scars. Taraji admitted it made her question everything, especially the people she trusted most. She shared that her team had pitched another show centered around Cookie, essentially trying to stretch the Empire universe. She wasn't completely opposed. She said she would have considered it if the concept, compensation, and vision matched her growth and experience. But it didn't. The execution fell short, opportunities slipped away, and eventually she made the difficult decision to cut ties entirely. When someone that season says, "My team failed me," people pay attention, and the whispers about Empire only grow louder. This is where the idea of an Empire curse starts to feel less like superstition and more like a convenient label for something far more uncomfortable. It's not magic, it's what happens when an actor becomes inseparable from a role that eclipses their individuality, then finds themselves quietly sidelined once the spotlight moves on. Taraji wasn't the only one who felt that aftershock. When fans scan the rest of the cast, they notice a similar pattern of instability, which is exactly why the theory refuses to fade. Terrence Howard is often brought up next. Long before Empire, he was already a respected name in Hollywood, but the show elevated him into an entirely new tier of cultural visibility. When Empire ended, however, his path forward became unpredictable. Eventually, he announced plans to step away from acting altogether, explaining that he felt exhausted and fulfilled, that he had already given everything he had to offer. Some people accepted that explanation as intentional and peaceful. Others saw it differently, another major Empire star exiting the industry immediately after the show, reinforcing the sense that the series took something vital from its cast. But the most shocking and unsettling case, the one that pushed the curse conversation from curiosity into something much darker, was Jussie Smollett. His story didn't just damage his career, it became a national spectacle. After Empire wrapped in 2020, his life unraveled publicly in a way few could have imagined during the show's peak. He was indicted by a Cook County grand jury on multiple felony counts for filing false police reports related to a hate crime that never occurred. At first, his claims triggered widespread outrage and sympathy. He said he had been attacked late at night by white Trump supporters while getting food, a narrative that immediately caught national attention. But as investigators dug deeper, the story began to fall apart. Authorities later revealed that he had paid 2 Nigerian brothers to help stage the entire incident, rehearsing it beforehand in what appeared to be a calculated attempt to gain attention and amplify his profile. When the truth surfaced, public opinion turned viciously. Almost overnight, Jussie went from victim to symbol of exploitation, someone accused of manipulating real social pain for personal benefit. The fallout was swift and unforgiving. Court appearances, non-stop media coverage, and public condemnation consumed his identity. His career didn't simply slow down, it collapsed in full view of the world. For many observers, this was the moment the Empire curse theory solidified, one lead actor struggling financially, another walking away from Hollywood, and another imploding in a national scandal, all after the same show ended. Of course, more grounded voices argue that coincidence doesn't equal causation. Empire didn't force anyone to make destructive choices or accept unfair deals. Hollywood has always been unforgiving, especially to actors of color and especially when a role becomes too iconic to escape. Still, there's something chilling about how similar the emotional undertones are across these stories: burnout, disillusionment, feeling used, feeling abandoned once the machine moved on. When people say Empire curse, what they may really mean is the danger of massive success without long-term protection. Empire was intense, dramatic, and larger than life, and maybe that energy didn't stop at the screen. Maybe it magnified cracks that already existed in the industry. The cast poured everything into their characters, became inseparable from them, and then struggled to be recognized as anything else. That kind of identity erosion can wear a person down quietly, until one day they either walk away, speak out, or self-destruct publicly. Taraji challenging pay inequity, Terrence choosing to exit, and Jesse making catastrophic decisions may look different on the surface, but at their core, they all reflect the same truth: fame is fragile, and the industry rarely returns loyalty in equal measure. So perhaps the Empire curse isn't mystical at all. Maybe it's simply the clearest illustration of how Hollywood extracts greatness and then discards the people who created it. When fans revisit Empire now, they don't just remember the music, the drama, or Cookie's legendary lines. They also remember what came after, when the applause faded, the cameras shut off, and reality rushed back in. That lingering aftermath is what keeps the conversation alive. Jesse's legal consequences only deepened that perception. He was sentenced to 150 days in county jail and 2.5 years of probation, a punishment many saw as the final confirmation that his career, once full of promise, had effectively collapsed. He was also ordered to pay approximately $120,000 in restitution and fined $25,000, penalties that symbolized not only legal accountability but public rejection. Almost instantly, industry doors slammed shut. Relationships dissolved quietly, invitations stopped coming, and former collaborators distanced themselves. In Hollywood, reputation is currency, and once it loses value, it's nearly impossible to recover. Silence replaced support. Distance replaced admiration. Later reports suggested that Jesse had been trying to rebuild his life privately. Away from the spotlight, he reportedly entered a rehabilitation treatment facility, signaling an attempt to confront the emotional and psychological toll of everything that had happened. A representative speaking on his behalf emphasized that this was not a publicity move, but a necessary step toward healing. They stated that he had endured an extremely difficult few years and had been doing the work long before the public knew. According to the rep, acknowledging his struggles was about survival, not sympathy. Still, public judgment rarely softens. Many people believe Jesse destroyed his own career the moment he staged the incident, and in their view, no amount of reflection can undo that choice. What continues to puzzle observers, however, is the timing. Why would someone take such a reckless risk at the height of their success, when opportunities were abundant and stability seemed secure? That question fuels endless speculation. Some blame the so-called Empire curse. Others point to the crushing pressure of fame, relevance, and expectation, pressure that can distort judgment when left unchecked. Adding another layer to the story, Jesse has claimed that his concern extends beyond himself. He has said he is deeply worried about Bryshere and has allegedly tried to find him and help him. That statement reopened old wounds for fans who watched Bryshere rise from obscurity to stardom almost overnight. Jesse's concern suggests that, despite his own downfall, he recognizes how dangerous fame can be when mixed with exploitation, isolation, and untreated mental health struggles. Whether his attempts to help were successful remains unknown, but the sentiment itself underscores just how tangled and tragic the Empire legacy has become. For a lot of people watching this unfold, the idea that Bryshere is somehow hard to find just doesn't sit right. His presence online has been loud, chaotic, and deeply unsettling. His social media pages have been filled with videos that many viewers describe as disturbing, so much so that people hesitate to repost or even explain what they've seen. The behavior feels erratic, unfiltered, and alarming, like someone unraveling in real time. To many, each clip looks less like content and more like a desperate signal for help. Yet instead of meaningful intervention, the reaction has mostly been mockery, silence, or exploitation through views and commentary. A young man once celebrated by the industry has been reduced to a spectacle. What makes the situation even more heartbreaking is the growing belief that, out of everyone connected to Empire, Bryshere may have suffered the most severe consequences. While others experienced career setbacks, public backlash, or burnout, Bryshere appears to have lost something far more fundamental: his sense of stability. His name now comes up in conversations about mental health crises, exploitation, and the duty of care owed to young talent by powerful institutions. Many argue that he doesn't need judgment or jokes, he needs protection, treatment, and real support. The speed with which he was elevated, and the totality with which he seems to have been abandoned, continues to disturb those who watched his rise from the very beginning. The conversation took an even darker turn when Jaguar Wright publicly reaffirmed a series of explosive claims that sent shockwaves across social media. She alleged that powerful figures were aware of disturbing situations involving young men in their circles, including Bryshere, August Alsina, and even Jaden Smith. According to her, these young men were allegedly taken to Sean Diddy Combs to be turned out, a phrase loaded with deeply troubling implications. These claims remain allegations, not proven facts, but their seriousness alone was enough to reignite outrage and renewed scrutiny toward those at the top of the industry. Jaguar also aimed her criticism at Terrence Howard, accusing him of being vocal about many issues while allegedly remaining silent about what she claims Bryshere endured during his time on Empire. In her view, silence from someone with power isn't neutral, it's complicity. She argued that if Terrence truly stood on integrity, he would have stepped in, spoken up, or protected Bryshere when it mattered most. That accusation reignited broader debates about selective activism and whether speaking out only when it's convenient undermines moral credibility. Her most disturbing statements went even further. Jaguar claimed that Bryshere was subjected to severe abuse by several influential individuals, including Will Smith, Charlie Mack, and Diddy. She went as far as to allege that a recording exists documenting these events and that other well-known figures, including Jaden Smith and Justin Bieber, were present. These claims remain unverified, but they added another layer of darkness to an already disturbing narrative. For many, the idea that such things could occur openly, shielded by power, fame, and influence, feeds into long-standing fears that the entertainment industry protects abusers while silencing or discarding victims. Some people see these allegations as fitting into a broader pattern that has surfaced repeatedly over the years, stories suggesting that Hollywood is far more dangerous for young, vulnerable talent than it appears from the outside. Others urge caution, stressing the importance of evidence and due process. Still, even skepticism doesn't erase the discomfort these stories create. They force difficult questions about power dynamics, access, and how exploitation can be disguised as opportunity. As all of these narratives collide, Jussie Smollett's attempt at rebuilding his life becomes tangled in a much larger conversation about accountability, trauma, and survival in the entertainment world. His expressed concern for Bryshere, whether sincere or self-serving, signals an awareness that something has gone terribly wrong beyond his own mistakes. Meanwhile, Bryshere's visible deterioration remains a haunting reminder of how quickly fame can morph into isolation when support systems collapse. What's perhaps most unsettling is the collective response, or lack of one. Fans argue. Commentators speculate. Social media cycles endlessly through outrage.